Hello, brains! A lot of us work really hard to make everyone around us happy. So, why aren't they happy? Those of us with ADHD tend to be people pleasers, which can be an admirable quality. Wanting to make people happy is great. Being kind and generous, it's a good thing. And occasionally putting other people's needs before our own is part of what makes us good friends and partners. But a lot of us, including me, take this instinct a bit too far and end up trying to make other people happy at the expense of our own needs and happiness. Why is this a problem? First of all, you can't make someone happy. You can bring them joy or brighten their day, but someone's base level of happiness isn't something we can directly control. Believe me, I've tried. Second of all, when we people please, we tend to use a form of communication that actually isn't great for relationships. It's called passive communication, or staying quiet about our needs and feelings. And the experts are pretty clear on this. It creates a lot of problems. Whether we like it or not, we have needs. And going too long without them getting met can lead to resentment and bubble up into passive-aggressive or even aggressive communication. Ever scream at someone that it's their turn to do the dishes for once? Yeah, that. And now nobody's happy. Passive communication can also be super uncomfortable for the other person. It can send mixed signals, like if we are saying yes when our body language is clearly saying no. And it can make those around us hesitant to ask for what they need because they don't trust that we'll say no if we can't do it. Also, when we don't say no often enough, we end up overextending ourselves and having to bail on people, which definitely does not make them happy. Even when people do seem happy with the whole their needs are getting met, ours aren't situation, it's really not sustainable. Eventually, something's gonna have to give. And in the meantime, it's not healthy for us. Long term, passive communication can result in anxiety, depression, stress, burnout, even low self-esteem. Because basically, what we're saying when we take care of others' needs and feelings at the expense of our own is this: your needs are important, mine aren't. We're literally devaluing ourselves, which I have done a lot. I used to think that speaking up for my needs made it seem like I didn't care, or I thought my needs were more important than theirs, which wasn't true. I did care. Usually I felt their needs were more important than mine. So I stayed quiet and tried not to need things. It did not go well. Luckily, there's a form of communication that allows us to speak up for our needs while also respecting the needs of others. It's called assertive communication. Wait, don't click away! If you're used to passive communication, assertive communication can sound awfully aggressive. And I think that's because by the time we hit the point of asserting ourselves, we usually have hit the point of aggression. Aggressive communication is pushy and demanding, using words or a tone that says, my needs are important, yours aren't. I don't care if you're hungry, feed yourself, I need a bath. Assertive communication says this: your needs are important, so are mine. Example, I don't feel up to cooking tonight. I've had a hard day and could really use a bath. You're not saying you don't care that they're hungry or that they shouldn't get fed, just that you're not up to doing it, which sets the groundwork for a solution that works for both of you, like takeout. So, how do we do it? The way to communicate assertively is to communicate our actual needs and feelings as clearly and accurately as possible, in a way in which they can be easily understood. One of the easiest and most effective ways to do this is to turn off all the typical communication filters and simply state our feelings and needs as facts. I prefer this. I need this. I like that. I don't like that. For those of us used to ignoring or minimizing our needs, this simple change can be really empowering, improve our self-esteem, create better relationships, and lower stress and anxiety. It can also feel super uncomfortable at first to talk about our feelings and needs as if they're real things that need to be taken into consideration, but they are. Our feelings and needs exist whether it's convenient for them to or not, so it's important that we take them into consideration. It's also important not to apologize for them. In case nobody's ever told you this, it's not your fault you have needs. You're human. Humans are high maintenance. Assertive communication doesn't guarantee we'll get those needs met, but it does make it a whole lot more likely. And being clear about our needs can actually make it easier on other people because then they don't have to guess at them and waste effort and resources in trying to meet them in ways that don't actually work for us. They also don't have to meet them just because we express them. In fact, in situations where needs conflict, which will happen, being open and honest about what our needs are can actually make them feel more comfortable being open and honest about theirs, which makes it a whole lot easier to find a better solution overall. And yeah, speaking up for our needs does mean that sometimes people will decide to put their needs aside for ours, and that's okay. getting our wants and needs met is a good thing because it gives us more energy to meet the wants and needs of others. As one of the brains put it, you can't pour from an empty teapot. The fuller our teapots, the more tea we have to give and still have some left for ourselves, which helps build sustainable, mutually satisfying relationships. And that's what actually makes people happy. If you want to learn more about assertive communication, I've linked to resources in the description below, and I'm going to be working on an episode that will have specific tips and lots of examples. So if there's a particular situation that you're curious about how to handle, put it in the comments below and I'll try to tackle that in the next episode. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for meeting my need for support so that I can continue researching and creating videos like these. Like, subscribe, click all the things, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, brains!